button wrong. Kirby, how's it going?
Good, man. Real quick, I appreciate you guys waiting. I apologize. I had no idea the thing went a little bit over, a little bit longer, so I guess they just told me y'all been waiting a while. So if you need an extra 5 minutes, I can give you all I can give you.
Yeah, I'll just start by asking your overall impressions and specifically how you guys operated with the quarterbacks in terms of ones and twos and how they looked.
Overall impressions, we're behind. I don't know that I've ever come out of a first scrimmage and felt good. I'm happy we got to scrimmage, to be honest with you. Between the injuries, COVID going on with different teams and different programs, the social injustice issues that we're dealing with in our country and our players are dealing with, the thoughts of those things, I'm really proud and happy that we were able to go out and scrimmage. But just looking at the scrimmage as a whole, we have a long way to go. We look like a team that didn't go through spring practice. We look like a team that is young at a lot of positions. We were really sloppy, to be honest with you. I guess the thing I was most proud of is that it was pretty hot and they pushed really hard. And we have been harping on mental toughness and practice effort. And we really haven't had good practice effort. And then today I thought, you know what, these guys got tired. They pushed through. We conditioned at the end of practice, and they really pushed through that. So that part made me proud. Our team stuck together and pushed, but the actual execution was poor. Going back to your quarterback question, I'm pretty sure we had every quarterback go with the ones at one time. I don't think Stetson got to go with the ones. Stetson did a good job in the groups he did go with. Jamie operated with the ones, and JT operated with the ones. And then DeJuan got a red area series with the ones as well. But the reps came out pretty balanced. Other than Stetson had a little bit fewer because we had seen Stetson a lot more. We know a lot more about Stetson in terms of his time spent with us last year.
Let's go to Anthony Dasher.
Hey, Coach. I want to, I guess, go and ask you. You mentioned you brought up, social justice issues. You're seeing in pro sports and other college programs are starting to take different steps to make statements regarding social injustices. Some haven't practiced. Some have marched. Have your players indicated to you anything they would like to do to make a statement of their own? And also, in what ways do you and your staff continue to address any concerns they have?
First off, I give a lot of credit to our staff. I rely heavily on the black men on our staff who have done a tremendous job. Dale McGee, Cortez, Charlton, Trey Scott, Jonas has been a tremendous asset. All our guys are really great assets. But we lean on those guys, and we lean on their experiences, and they've done an unbelievable job. And, yes, our guys are heavily affected, and I don't think you realize that. I don't think, as coaches, I don't think it's sometimes our society, our donors, our alumni, our fans, I don't think people in the country realize how it affects each young man differently. And when you show empathy and you listen, you hear their experiences. It's not all about just what they see on TV. That certainly is what sparks it, but it's the personal experiences each one of them has had in their family or in their community. And sometimes that resonates with them, an experience a young man had with his mom, an experience a young man had with his brother. And when you sit there as a head coach and you just listen, you realize how it affects each one differently. And I one of the most important things I've learned in this process is listen twice as much as you talk. And we've done a lot of listening, and our players have been very adamant. They brainstormed. They came up with all kinds of ideas that we think we can do to take action, because we're big. I'm big on action. That's my big thing. I'm not going to just sit there and issue a statement or words. We want action. And our guys came up with an action list of items, and it's probably 17, 18 things. And we're just taking them off one by one. We're going to take them on and try to be very intentional about what we do.
Let's go to Mike Griffith. Mike, unmute. Okay, let's go to Chip Towers. We'll come back to Mike.
Can you hear me okay?
Okay, Mike, go.
Thanks, Claude. Yeah, Kirby, can you just talk about some of the, I don't know, I know you said sloppy, but were there some plays that you would highlight or some players that you might highlight for plays or effort?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, Mike, because I know it's media. You want to, you want to highlight someone. I want to give you that information, but for every one of those highlights, there's a low light on the other side. So for every sack, somebody got beat, and I don't know exactly, who got beat. I don't know exactly who had the most sacks because I don't have statistics and I haven't got to watch the tape. There were several long runs. James and Zamir both had good runs, mostly against the second team defense, but I mean, on being a defensive guy, there was a mistake. The guy misfitted. So it wasn't like they went out there and broke 18 tackles. They went untouched for 50 yards or 60 yards. And to the normal eye, that's a great run. But to me, it's a mistake. In the same way on some of the pressures guys made. So, really the one offense kind of dominated the two defense. The one defense dominated the two offense. And you're like, okay, that's great. And then we went ones on ones, and it was a little more balanced. There were a couple 3-and-outs, but the one offense also sustained a drive down and made some plays. So I thought it was very competitive when it was ones on ones. It was very lopsided when it was 2s on ones. And I don't feel like there was a lot of big plays in the passing game. Like we've had some big vertical plays in the passing game in practice. We didn't really have that today. The explosives we had today were runs and sloppy missed tackles.
Hey, Chip Towers?
Yeah, Coach, I don't think we got a chance to hear from you on Dom Blaylock. It sounds like a really unfortunate development. And then maybe if you could just give us an idea of what that wide receiver core is shaping up like.
Yeah, Dom's, we released a statement, it's just very unfortunate. Dom worked as hard as anybody I have ever seen. And Ron Corson, I mean, he's probably had 50 ACLs in his time here. He's never seen somebody work as hard as he did. He likened it to what Nick Chubb went through. He did so much work, prepared so hard. Dom's got such a great, family at home, and it just hurts for a kid like that to get out there. He was on a rep count when he went back out there. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th rep. There was nobody even around him. It was a weird deal. He just caught the ball and planted and turned, and it's a non-contact ACL, and very unfortunate. But, that's what's so special about Dom. I reached out to him right away and he said, Coach, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to push through it. He's such a fiery competitor, and, I'm excited to see him get back. As far as the rest of the guys, we were hit a wall a little bit with some of the younger guys. I think, they didn't show us much today. We didn't have a lot of great vertical passing game, but Kieris, Matt, D-Rob, and George are, pretty consistent. And then after that, we're trying to build kind of a depth chart among those guys, the freshmen and the other guys competing. Justin, Marcus, and Jermaine are all competing in there along with Trey Blunt, some of the other guys. But nobody really stood out today. It wasn't like anybody was head and shoulders above the rest.
Let's go to Seth Emerson.
Kirby, on quarterbacks, has the development so far and JT's health, has that muddled the picture any for your all's timetable and what you all think you're going to do there, or are things kind of progressing the way you'd like?
Well, I'd like for every one of them to be successful and do well. The tough thing is, going against our defense day in and day out, putting things in that we did have a spring to go through. I think offenses traditionally start out a little slower than defenses. That's just the way it's always been in football. But the last probably 3 to 4 days, there's been ray of light. There's been more plays made. Certainly today when they went against the 2s, which one offense doesn't always go against the 2s, there was a lot of ray of light. There was guys scoring left and right. So, but I don't think anybody's separated, if that's what you're asking. And as far as a timetable for that, I don't have a timetable for that. It's got to happen. JT is not cleared still. I know y'all think he's cleared, or what you think of as cleared, but cleared to me is I can go out and play a full game of tackle football. So yeah, he gets to scrimmage, but he doesn't. He wouldn't be cleared for a game in terms of contact yet. So that factors in the decision, and also the other guys, what they can do with their feet. Sometimes there's a tough measurement at quarterback unless you go live with those guys. So we haven't had anybody separate yet.
Dean Legge, do you have a question?
I do, Kirby. You said earlier you started off with we are behind, but y'all still have, I don't know, am I still getting used to the calendar? Are you getting used to the calendar with how much time y'all still have left to go?
Yeah, it's very unique. I talked to our team about it today. At this scrimmage point, most times we're 3 weeks away. We're 4 weeks away with the scrimmage in our bank. The difference is we don't have as many practices left. So time is there, but practices aren't, if you know what I mean. So we're monitored by the NCAA, and we're also required to give the players a certain amount of time off. So our practice numbers that we have left are less than we would traditionally have at this point. But we also have a little time to recover and get better. And when I say behind, I'm talking about from the fact we didn't have spring. We got guys that Carson Beck didn't get to go in the spring. DeJuan Mathis, a kid who really needed those reps in the spring, didn't get to go. Jamie didn't get to have spring practice, and JT wasn't here. So then when I say behind, I'm really talking from that perspective. I would say that knock on wood, I mean, we've done a good job with Ron and his staff, and we've been able to keep most of our players out there from a health standpoint and from a COVID standpoint to be able to practice.
Jake Rowe, do you have a question?
Yeah, Kirby, I wanted to ask about the offensive line. You sustained some big losses there, and we didn't get a chance to ask you about it last time. Who's kind of stepping up? Is there anybody that's kind of made a move there in terms of, catching your eye?
Well, I don't know what I don't know what you think or what you expect or what's out there. I have no idea. I haven't seen anything, but the spot is probably the most competitive. I mean, both guards are going to be competitive. Trey's playing center, Jamari's playing left tackle. Schaefer has done a lot of work with the ones at left guard, Ben at right guard. But I wouldn't say that's a done deal because we've got Warren Erickson, Clay Webb. We have some good competition. Notori has shown some promise there working. So those guys are really competing at the guard spots. The right tackle spot has been the one probably the most competitive deal. And Owen Condon's really stepped up, done some good things. Owen hadn't been healthy since he's been here, and he's been a pleasant surprise in terms of competitiveness, intelligence, toughness. We'd like for him to play with a little more power and be able to move people. And then Warren McClendon. He and Warren are probably getting the most reps there. And then Tate has come along. Since the pads came on, Tate Rowledge has come on and played well. So we're trying to find the best mix. And as you always know, it's not three guys trying to get one spot. It's can one of those guys go in and play guard better than one of our guards. So we've got a little bit of musical chairs going on there, but Matt's handling it well, Coach Luke, and those guys are competing. I mean, we have a good quality depth there. We don't have the elite players we had last year.
Brandon Sudge, do you have a question?
Hey, Coach, kind of following up on what Dash asked you about the social injustice and how you guys are addressing that. Did you guys have any discussion of holding out a practice, doing like a march or anything? And then also, how have you gone about addressing that with your team, allowing them to speak, and then allowing them to speak on social media platforms, be open in that regard?
Yeah, like I think I mentioned, Thursday was a day off. Thursday was a day of meetings and exercise, conditioning. We're allowed to work them out Thursday. It was not a true practice day, but it just didn't, it wasn't like artificially happened. We just said, hey, we want to talk about some things. We want you guys. A couple players reached out to me. I guess it was Wednesday night after practice. I had seen all the issues, in Wisconsin. I'd seen the social injustice and all the different shots and all the camera angles. Maybe it was Monday or Tuesday night. But Wednesday night when the NBA, I think it was Wednesday night, the NBA boycotted the games, I started getting some stuff from our players reaching out saying, Coach, let's talk, let's revisit this. And we had been. We had talked about it earlier in the summer. But since camp had started, we'd had a couple speakers come in, but we had not really shared as a team. And Dale Cortez and Jonas thought it would be a good time. And we've got a tremendous staff here. And we let the players share it Thursday. And what was supposed to be a quick meeting and then go to our football stuff ended up being 3.5 hours of each guy sharing. And it turned into brainstorming, coming up with some ideas. And that was kind of our, guys they didn't do football that day. We didn't do any football that day. And football wasn't important. And they got to voice their opinions. And, emotionally, a lot of our guys are in pain. You hear it, it's easy to sit back behind a social media site or social media and post something and have your opinion. But until you've actually heard guys and the pain they're going through and some of the things they feel, You don't know. And that certainly affected me, and it's affected our players. But I'll say this, they have been very intentional about wanting action. You know, they want the University of Georgia in terms of the athletic department to represent them. They want to do things in the community. They want to give back to their communities. They want to make change. They want to have 100% vote. They want 100% of student athletes at Georgia to vote. They're challenging. They're issuing the challenges that need to be done, and I'm really proud of them for that.
Let's go to the red and black. Is that, Jillian, is that you?
Yes, it is. Hey, Coach. So back to Blaylock's injury. Just curious where his head's at now that he's forced to look beyond the 2020 season all the way to 2021. And how have other receivers responded to maybe having a larger role than they had before?
Well, his head's in a great space because he's got the right kind of mindset. We had some players who've really been injured a lot. Thomas Davis, I think Ron had said he had been through 3 maybe ACLs. I think he said that throughout his career, and had him reach out, speak to him. Malcolm Mitchell, who's had some experience with that. You know, it's always good to hear somebody who's had success after these experiences. We all know Zamir has gone through it from a high school to a year in college. So Dom's great, man. Dom's resilient. He's going to fight. He's a competitor. He's a great kid to be around, and we want to keep him around the team. In terms of the other guys, you know, Dom had not been out there much prior to, so it wasn't like the reps increased because Dom wasn't out there much. So the rest of the guys have taken and shouldered the load and done a good job of it. Vance Levy, you have a question?
Hey, Kirby, how did the special teams do today? And what is Scott Cochran adding to the not only special teams but all your staff? And how's he transitioning to being an on-field coach?
I thought the special teams are behind where we need to be. And look, that's just like the offense and defense. When you don't get spring practice and you don't get to do that, you're basically taking not a year, what is that, 9 months? I don't know, 8 months since we played the Baylor game. We're behind, and we've got to improve there. We got to have a lot of our best players play on those units. You know, we showed some video of Travon Walker, you know, playing on special teams last year and dominating before the scrimmage. We're trying to say, okay, which freshman's going to be him? Which freshman's going to be that guy that really dominates and takes over and plays on special teams and takes ownership in that? And a lot of times in these scrimmages, they're so exhausted, they don't have the juice for special teams. It's a lot easier to play special teams in a real game when you're not playing every snap, which in the scrimmage, we got more guys playing because we're on both sides of the ball. But Scott's been awesome. He's got great energy in the meetings. He does a tremendous job on the field. The players enjoy being around him. And it's a team effort. We got every coach on the staff helping with that side of it. So for the punters, you know, Camarda kicked the ball really well. We didn't hit the Rubright, hit a couple punts. And then field goal kicking is still a competition. We had 4 guys kick field goals today, but Zirkle kicked the ball well, and we're in a heated competition for that job.
Jeff Schultz, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Kirby, this is a little bit of a hypothetical question, which I know coaches hate to answer, but hopefully you'll bite on it. If nothing changes today, when we get into the season, there's basically 3 Power 5 conferences and a couple other FBS conferences, and whoever at this moment is not playing doesn't play. Do you think the season deserves any kind of asterisk at all in terms of whether who's the conference champion or who's the national champion? Or do you think whoever goes through all this will have basically deserved what they won?
First of all, I don't know how you would have an asterisk about conference championship. I mean, because that would be probably as most real as we've ever had, right? I mean, 10 games and hopefully a championship game. So I'm assuming if you're talking about that there's no way. The only asterisk by that one would be this is the toughest team there ever was, because they went through 10 games in our league and played a championship game. Hats off to them, because they need an asterisk saying they were the national champions, in my opinion, because it's going to be tough in terms of the number of practices we have, fighting COVID. If you told me how many guys had to miss games, you know, in a 10-game schedule because of a exposure or because of a positive, it'd probably really have an asterisk, on the conference championship because, one game you could have your starting quarterback out and that could play a major factor. But as far as the national championship, I mean, basically it's the teams that are playing. And if the teams that are playing play and they have a, championship series 4-game playoff, I don't see why I would have an asterisk because it is what it is. I mean, it's beyond the kids' control. They weren't able to go and play those other teams, and all the teams that were eligible to play played. So I would certainly think people would want to put an asterisk around it, but these teams in the SEC won't do that. Not after playing 10 games, a conference championship, and possibly 2 playoffs.
David Pascal?
Thank you.
Hey, Kirby, I know this is a unique year in a lot of ways, one of them being the NCAA allowing that number 0. Curious about the Darnell Washington background there. Is that something he asked for during recruiting, and how competitive was being number 0 this year for the Dogs?
I'll be honest with you. I don't honestly know that. Hardly, that was recruitment. I don't know when exactly the 0 came about. It may have been after he was committed, signed. I'm not sure, but it brings a smile to my face because those offensive guys call him the Big O, and he is big. He is very big. So when they say the Big O, I never really got it until I realized it was pretty bad slip on my part to be like, why are they calling him the Big O? His name doesn't have O in it, but he's the Big O for wearing 0, and he's a big man. And I assume he wanted a single digit, and we're all out. So the Big O is another single digit, even though it looks funny.
We're going to take 2 more questions. We'll just open up for anybody for these last 2. Go ahead. Just unmute yourself, please.
Hey, Kirby, this is last time we spoke to Todd Monken. He said, he couldn't really assess his offense because he hasn't had a chance to actually scrimmage them. Did you get a chance to talk to him after the scrimmage, and what did he think, and maybe what did you think of some of his play calls?
I don't know what's going on with the sound here, but it sounds like he's asking if I had talked to Monken after the scrimmage. The sound went out on ours, so I'm assuming y'all can hear me, right? Give me a nod if y'all can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I talked to Monken after the scrimmage, yes. I talked to him briefly a little bit, but to say, I mean, he hasn't watched the tape either, so the assessment of how the guys did, I would reserve judgment on that until, we get to watch the tape, really analyze it. Was the sack on the quarterback or was the sack on the offensive line? Did he hold the ball too long? Where were his eyes? Did he not redirect the protection? What was the mistake on? That kind of thing. So I don't think we're ready to say, like I said earlier, where the quarterbacks are in terms of the development and which guys stepping up and trying to get ahead. The biggest issue at quarterback is the number of reps, guys. You can't prepare 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks. You can hardly prepare 3 quarterbacks. So that makes it tough.
Last question.
Hey, I want to ask a housekeeping question on Duran Branch. Is he back with the team? When can he practice again?
Duran, yeah, he's back with the team. He was with us today. So he got out there, and I mean, he wasn't allowed to practice because he didn't have on pads yet. He's going through acclimation period, but he was out there working out, did individual, did all the drills and things, and excited to have him back. He had some personal things going on. He had to go home and take care of, and he did that. And he came back, so I'm glad he's with us and taking another shot at it.
Thanks, everybody.